We often think of psychology as a tool for healing, understanding, and growth. But there exists a darker counterpart, a realm filled with tactics aiming to manipulate and control our thoughts and actions. This is the domain of dark psychology. Dark psychology is a term that encompasses various techniques and tactics used to exploit human behavior. It thrives on our inherent vulnerabilities, aiming to bend our will and bend our perception of reality. But what does this really mean? Let's dive deeper. Imagine standing at a crossroads, where one path leads to self-awareness and empowerment, while the other leads to manipulation and control. Which path do we usually choose? Dark psychology tactics exploit our desires, fears, and emotions. Studies reveal that people react emotionally far more significantly than they do rationally. In fact, data suggests that upwards of 95% of our decisions are made subconsciously, allowing dark tactics to operate in the shadows unnoticed. Consider the concept of gaslighting, a tactic where an individual seeks to make another doubt their perception of reality. Think about its manifestations in both personal and professional settings. Imagine a colleague persistently undermining your confidence or a partner dismissing your concerns as mere misunderstandings. One of the most famous cases of gaslighting was depicted in the classic 1944 film Gaslight, where a husband systematically manipulates his wife into questioning her sanity. The chilling reality is that this theme repeats itself in many lives today, leaving countless victims in its wake. Every year, thousands are ensnared in similar webs of control, robbing them of their autonomy and self-trust. The implications are staggering. Understanding dark psychology isn't merely an academic endeavor, it's a crucial survival skill in our interconnected world. In the age of technology, where social media and digital interactions dominate, the mechanisms of dark psychology have evolved, appearing in the guise of online influencers, advertisements, and even political campaigns. From clickbait headlines designed to capture your attention to emotionally charged political messages aimed at swaying public opinion, dark psychology is deeply embedded in our daily lives. This manipulation is no longer restricted to personal relationships but has a far-reaching impact on society as a whole. What can we do to guard ourselves against these toxic influences? The first step is awareness. By recognizing these tactics, we empower ourselves to reclaim our mental autonomy. In this series, we will unearth various dark psychology tactics, delve into their implications, and learn how to protect ourselves from becoming unwitting pawns in someone else's game. So buckle up, as the journey into the shadows of the mind has just begun. Deception is an art, one that manipulators often wield with precision. But what are the strategies they use to ensnare their victims? At the forefront of these tactics is charm. Many manipulators exude charisma, drawing others in with their charm and likability. Research shows that warmth and approachability can lead people to overlook red flags, putting them at risk of manipulation. A revealing study published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that individuals who were perceived as highly likable were more likely to elicit compliance, even leading others to act against their own best interests. Consider the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos, who captivated investors and media with her vision of revolutionizing healthcare. Her charm concealed a plethora of deceptive practices, ultimately leading to one of the biggest financial scandals in recent history. Holmes manipulated the narrative around her product while deceiving countless individuals, illustrating how charm can be a double-edged sword. Another common tactic is emotional manipulation. This method relies on exploiting an individual's feelings, creating a dependency that allows the manipulator to maintain control. The cycle often involves idealization, devaluation, and discarding, as seen in many abusive relationships. Emotional manipulators may exploit feelings of guilt or obligation, making their victims feel responsible for their emotions or actions. For instance, a partner may say, "If you really loved me, you would," putting emotional pressure on the other person. A powerful example of this manipulation can be seen in the concept of love bombing, where affection and attention are overwhelmed with intensity, creating a powerful psychological attachment. Cognitive dissonance is another weapon in the manipulator's arsenal. This psychological phenomenon occurs when individuals experience discomfort due to holding conflicting beliefs. Manipulators can exploit this by providing justifications for their actions that create confusion and lead to compliance. An infamous example involves cult leaders, who often employ cognitive dissonance to maintain loyalty among followers. By creating a world where the followers' beliefs are constantly challenged yet justifiable, they can keep people engaged and isolated from external influences. The stakes are high when we delve into deception tactics, as they can lead to severe consequences for those affected. Victims may struggle with anxiety, depression, and a loss of self-identity. To counteract these strategies, it's crucial to cultivate self-awareness and emotional intelligence. By recognizing emotional triggers and establishing personal boundaries, individuals can fortify themselves against manipulation. As we progress, we'll explore how to identify these tactics in different areas of life and dismantle them effectively. Stay tuned, as we continue to unveil the layers of dark psychology and its pervasive impact on our lives. Power is a complex concept, often equated with authority and control. Understanding power dynamics is critical to grasping dark psychology. In any relationship or group, there exists an underlying power structure, shaping interactions and influencing behavior. Dominance can manifest in subtle ways, often obscured by the facade of normalcy. A common example of this is the workplace. Many employees face power imbalances where a superior may manipulate their position to exert control over subordinates. Psychological theories suggest that individuals often conform to authority, a phenomenon extensively studied by psychologist Stanley Milgram in the 1960s. His experiments revealed a startling willingness to obey authority figures, even when it contravened personal ethics. This obedience can be exploited by manipulators in various contexts. Consider the dynamic of a micromanager who insists on controlling every aspect of their team's work. The constant oversight can create an environment rife with anxiety, ultimately reducing productivity and stifling creativity. The concept of social proof also plays a significant role in manipulative strategies. Individuals are often swayed by the actions and opinions of others, leading to conformity. This tactic can be observed in marketing campaigns, where testimonials and social validation are used to influence consumer behavior. The infamous case of the Asch conformity experiment showcases the power of group influence, where individuals were willing to provide incorrect answers to conform to the group's consensus. This illustrates just how far people will go to fit in, often making them vulnerable to manipulation. In personal relationships, this dynamic can be seen in the way some partners assert dominance over others. A partner may use guilt, social isolation, or financial control to dictate behaviors, creating an environment where the other feels powerless. Recognizing these power dynamics is essential for developing healthy relationships. Equipping ourselves with knowledge allows us to break free from cycles of control and manipulation. In our next chapter, we will focus on the impact of these power dynamics on mental health and personal development. The journey to understanding dark psychology is one of empowerment. Recognizing the shadows allows us to step into the light. The impact of manipulation extends far beyond the immediate moment. It often leaves lasting emotional scars. Understanding the relationship between dark psychology tactics and mental health is crucial in recognizing their effects. Victims of emotional manipulation often experience an array of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Research indicates that individuals subjected to manipulation may struggle with trust issues and feelings of low self-worth. Let's look at the phenomenon of Stockholm Syndrome. This psychological condition occurs when hostages or victims develop positive feelings toward their captor. Studies reveal that this can result from manipulation tactics, which induce dependence and alter perceptions of reality. A striking example involves Patricia Hearst, the heiress who was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army in 1974. Hearst ultimately became an active participant in the group's criminal activities, illustrating how deeply manipulation can alter a person's psyche. The emotional toll can also surface in subtle ways, as individuals may be left feeling confused and questioning their judgment. Anxiety can stem from an inability to trust one's own thoughts or perceptions, known as self-doubt. Moreover, emotional manipulation often erodes communication in relationships. As trust diminishes, partners may avoid open dialogues, creating a cycle of misunderstanding. A study published in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology found that individuals who experienced emotional manipulation were more likely to exhibit depressive symptoms and reported lower relationship satisfaction. These findings spotlight the profound impact of dark psychology on our mental well-being. The psychological ramifications are extensive, affecting not only the individual but also their broader relationships. It becomes vital to address these mental health concerns through therapy and support networks. Recognizing the signs of manipulation is the first step towards healing. It empowers individuals to reclaim their identity and autonomy, fostering a path toward recovery and self-improvement. As we proceed, we will explore practical strategies for overcoming manipulation and building mental resilience. Stay tuned, as the journey toward healing and empowerment continues. Having navigated the treacherous waters of dark psychology and manipulation, we now stand at a pivotal moment, the opportunity for empowerment and reclamation of our minds. Understanding the tactics used against us is the first critical step in reclaiming control over our lives. This process involves self-reflection and the establishment of healthy boundaries, which serve as armor against future manipulation. Developing emotional intelligence is a powerful tool in this journey. Studies show that individuals with high emotional intelligence are more adept at recognizing the emotions of others, allowing them to navigate interpersonal dynamics more effectively. By learning to read emotional cues, we can detect when others are attempting to manipulate our feelings or actions. A powerful exercise is practicing assertive communication, where we express our thoughts and feelings openly while respecting others. Another essential strategy is to cultivate a strong support network. Surrounding ourselves with empathetic individuals who prioritize our well-being can bolster our resilience against manipulation. These connections provide emotional safety, enabling us to voice our concerns and seek guidance. In addition, mindfulness practices can enhance our self-awareness, helping us to stay grounded in our thoughts and emotions. Techniques such as meditation, journaling, or even mindful breathing can cultivate clarity, enabling us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. The journey to empowerment is not a path of solitude, it is one of community and support. Resources like therapy and support groups can provide invaluable insights and coping strategies, reinforcing our capacity to resist manipulation. As we prepare to conclude this exploration, remember that the shadows of dark psychology may linger, but with knowledge and tools, we can step into the light. Stay with us in the final chapters as we explore specific actions and mindsets that can fortify you against manipulation while promoting personal growth and resilience. As we journey deeper into the realm of dark psychology, we encounter a significant ethical dilemma. At what point does manipulation become morally unacceptable? To explore this, we need to understand the line between influence and deception. On the surface, persuasion can appear benign. We persuade our friends to try a new restaurant, or we influence our children to complete their homework. These actions revolve around positive outcomes, yet they walk a fine line. The ethical issue arises when manipulation is employed to serve selfish interests rather than mutual benefit. Consider the case of companies that use psychological tactics to increase sales by targeting vulnerable customers. The 2007 to 2008 financial crisis, for example, revealed how lenders manipulated consumers into high-risk loans. A Yale study showed that 75% of borrowers did not fully understand the terms of their mortgages, primarily due to deceptive practices. This manipulation not only devastated the economy but also left countless families without homes, showcasing a severe moral breach. Fundamentally, ethical boundaries in dark psychology are murky. The concept of dark triad personality traits, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy, highlights how individuals with these characteristics tend to exploit others. Let's examine the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign, a vivid example of manipulation ethics. Both major candidates utilized dark psychology tactics, such as emotional appeal and misinformation, to sway voters. Research conducted by Cornell University found that campaigns deploying strong emotional rhetoric are 30% more likely to succeed. Yet, the broader implications of such strategies raise questions about the health of democracy. When does political persuasion cross into manipulation? The Cambridge Analytica scandal further complicates this ethical landscape. This firm harvested data from social media to target voters with highly manipulative ads, tailoring content to exploit fears and biases. While the technique was undoubtedly effective, participants later expressed feelings of betrayal. Such moments remind us that we all have a responsibility to maintain ethical standards in our interactions. The question remains, how do we define that standard, and who holds the power to enforce it? As we consider the implications of dark psychology, reflecting on our moral compass will be crucial in navigating this landscape. This chapter has raised essential questions about the ethical boundaries of influence. What happens next? We'll move forward to explore the flip side, resilience in the face of manipulation. In the face of the powerful and often unseen forces of dark psychology, resilience becomes our strongest ally. But how do we cultivate this mental fortitude? To begin, we must first acknowledge the signs of manipulation. Recognizing these tactics can empower us to reclaim our agency. One vital tool in building resilience is awareness, understanding both ourselves and the tactics of others. Take the concept of emotional intelligence. Research indicates that individuals with high emotional intelligence can decode the feelings and intentions of others, thereby reducing their susceptibility to manipulation. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that emotionally intelligent individuals are 90% more effective at navigating interpersonal relationships. Developing a strong sense of self is equally important. Individuals with a clearly defined identity are less likely to fall victim to dark psychology tactics. This leads us to the concept of self-reflection. Regularly evaluating our own thoughts and behaviors allows us to discover vulnerabilities that others may exploit. For instance, in the workplace, understanding our triggers can help us withstand pressure from manipulative colleagues. Let's take Sarah, a junior executive who faced constant pressure from her boss to engage in unethical practices. Through self-reflection, she discovered that her fear of failure was being exploited. Instead of succumbing, she established a support network and sought mentorship, reinforcing her resilience. Moreover, building assertiveness is crucial in resisting manipulation. Assertive communication can help individuals express their needs directly without being overly aggressive. One practical technique involves using I statements. For example, "I feel uncomfortable with this approach" discourages manipulative behavior without inciting defensiveness. Resilience is also about emotional regulation. Studies suggest that individuals who can manage their emotions effectively are less prone to manipulation. For instance, in high-pressure situations where someone tries to guilt-trip you, practicing mindfulness can help maintain your composure. Mindfulness-based stress reduction programs have shown to improve emotional control significantly, making participants more resilient. Ultimately, developing resilience is akin to building a mental muscle. It requires consistent practice, commitment, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. As we explore the next chapter, we will delve into case studies of those who have successfully navigated manipulation and emerged empowered. Now, let's examine some powerful real-life stories of individuals who have triumphed over manipulation by applying psychological principles and resilience. These transformative journeys remind us of the strength we all possess. Take the story of David, a former addict who fell prey to a manipulative dealer. David's dealer preyed on his vulnerabilities, promising him happiness and success in exchange for loyalty. In the depths of addiction, David lost not only his possessions but also his sense of self. However, through rehabilitation and support groups, he learned to recognize the tactics used against him. His journey highlights the critical role of community in overcoming manipulation. Through connections with others, he regained his agency and rebuilt his life. Next, we meet Lisa, a legal assistant who faced emotional manipulation from her boss, who often used guilt and intimidation to achieve compliance. Confronted with the decision to stay in a toxic environment or stand up for herself, Lisa chose the latter. She consulted a mentor and put together a strategic plan to address the issue through proper channels. By documenting instances of manipulation and inconsistency, she not only gained control of her situation but also inspired her colleagues to speak out. The third story is that of Marco, a student who fell victim to the charms of a manipulative friend who leveraged social status for control. As the relationship progressed, Marco began feeling isolated from genuine friendships. Realizing he was being manipulated, he practiced assertive communication by setting boundaries with this friend. Over time, he not only reclaimed his social circle but also fostered stronger connections with authentic friends who appreciated him for who he was. These stories underscore a vital lesson: resilience is intertwined with self-awareness, and overcoming manipulation is within everyone's reach. By sharing these narratives, we begin to understand that the fight against dark psychology is also a journey of empowerment. But our exploration of dark psychology isn't over yet. Up next, we will analyze strategies to effectively counteract common manipulation tactics. Having understood the importance of resilience and witnessed inspiring stories, we now turn to practical strategies that empower us against manipulation in our daily lives. Knowledge is our first line of defense. The more we understand psychological tactics, the more equipped we become to counter them. One effective strategy involves the broken record technique. This technique entails repeating your point calmly and assertively, denying further attempts at manipulation. For instance, if someone tries to guilt-trip you into making a decision that doesn't serve your interests, calmly restating your decision can break their psychological hold. This method has been shown to reduce compliance to manipulative tactics significantly. Another strategy is practicing emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold-hearted. Instead, it's about recognizing emotional triggers and stepping back from them. For example, take a moment to breathe and assess a situation before responding. Research shows that individuals who employ this technique report feeling more empowered in the face of emotional manipulation. The power of questioning cannot be underestimated either. Asking probing questions can expose the manipulation attempts and create discomfort in the manipulator. For example, if someone is trying to coerce you into something you don't want to do, simply asking, "What leads you to believe that's in my best interest?" can prompt them to reconsider their approach. Research indicates that manipulators often back off when faced with unexpected scrutiny. Let's also not forget the importance of professional boundaries. Establishing clear boundaries in personal and professional relationships is essential to protect oneself from manipulation. Establish guidelines for interactions that are agreeable to you, and do not hesitate to voice these limits when someone crosses them. Finally, developing a support network is a powerful tool. Surround yourself with individuals who echo your values and can provide honest feedback. This network can serve as a sounding board during challenging situations. Utilizing these strategies not only builds resilience but cultivates an environment where manipulation becomes less effective. As we draw our exploration of dark psychology to a close, we will reflect on the implications of manipulative tactics and the transformative power of awareness and resilience. As we arrive at the final chapter of our exploration into dark psychology tactics, we reflect on the transformative power of awareness. Awareness serves as a beacon, guiding us through the murky waters of manipulation. It informs our decisions and shapes our reality. By becoming attuned to psychological tactics, we begin to view our own behaviors and thought processes through a more critical lens. A pivotal study conducted by Harvard University demonstrated that mindfulness and awareness can significantly reduce susceptibility to manipulation. Participants who practiced mindfulness showed a 40% decrease in compliance to manipulation tactics. Realizing that awareness is not simply knowledge, but a practiced skill, we navigate our relationships with clarity. As we've explored throughout this documentary, the consequences of manipulation extend far beyond the individual. Understanding these tactics, and sharing this knowledge with others, can foster a culture of empowerment. Imagine a world where people support one another's growth instead of exploiting weaknesses. This shift requires commitment from each of us to cultivate awareness within ourselves and the people around us. Additionally, fostering a mindset that embraces curiosity about others' motivations can enrich our relationships. Rather than perceiving interactions as battles of control, we can view them as opportunities for connection. This perspective enhances empathy and discourages the urge to manipulate. Finally, as we step into the future, let's carry the lessons learned from our exploration into dark psychology. By staying vigilant against manipulation, nurturing our resilience, and building supportive networks, we empower ourselves and those around us. The journey toward transformative awareness begins with a single step, but together we can create a ripple effect of knowledge and growth. As we conclude, remember that every thought, action, and conversation has the potential to lead to transformation. The power lies within us. Thank you for joining this exploration of dark psychology tactics. May we all embrace awareness as we navigate the complexities of human interaction and strive to become our best selves. Imagine a world where your thoughts are not your own, where invisible forces manipulate your decisions without you even realizing it. This is not the realm of science fiction, but a reality grounded in neuroscience. Today, we delve into the brain's intricate wiring and explore how dark psychology exploits these pathways to control behavior. Neuroscience merges psychology and biology, revealing that our thoughts and actions stem from complex neural networks. Researchers have long studied how areas of the brain like the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex influence our emotions and decision-making processes. The amygdala, often referred to as the emotional center of the brain, is essential for processing fear and pleasure. It plays a critical role in survival by triggering fight-or-flight responses in threatening situations. Unfortunately, this primal response can be hijacked by manipulators who exploit our emotional vulnerabilities. Imagine a corporate atmosphere where a charismatic leader instills fear or desire to enforce compliance. By stimulating the amygdala, they can influence employee behavior for personal gain. On the flip side, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and decision-making, can become overwhelmed, leading to poor choices. Studies show that emotional arousal can impair critical thinking, making individuals more susceptible to manipulation. In one experiment, participants exposed to emotionally charged messages were likely to take actions that contradicted their better judgment. This raises an important question: how do we protect ourselves from such psychological traps? Understanding the neuroscience behind dark psychology not only helps us recognize manipulation tactics, but it also empowers us to build resilience against them. As we explore further, we will uncover ways to reclaim control over our minds and decisions through awareness and education. In our technologically driven world, dark psychology has found new playgrounds. Social media platforms, once heralded as empowering tools for connection, have also become breeding grounds for manipulation. The digital age has transformed how we communicate, but with it has come a wave of psychological tactics that can subtly influence our beliefs and behaviors. Every like, share, and comment is tracked, analyzed, and used to create comprehensive psychological profiles. These data-driven personas allow advertisers and individuals to manipulate emotions and decisions at unprecedented levels. Studies reveal that emotions like envy, fear, and even joy can be engineered through targeted content. For instance, a study from the University of Pennsylvania indicated that social media can amplify feelings of envy, leading to detrimental effects on mental health. Users continuously exposed to curated, idealized images tend to question their self-worth, leading to anxiety and depression. Here's where the darker tactics come into play. Consider the rise of influencers, whose lives seem perfect and aspirational. They often utilize persuasive techniques, emphasizing scarcity, social proof, or authority, prompting followers to purchase products they don't need or aspire to lifestyles that aren't realistic. Moreover, the algorithms governing these platforms prioritize engagement, often amplifying sensational or negative content to keep viewers glued to their screens. This, in turn, creates echo chambers, reinforcing pre-existing beliefs and polarizing opinions. A classic example can be seen in political advertising, where targeted ads exploit existing biases to shape voter behavior. As users scroll through their feeds, they may encounter misinformation crafted to provoke emotional responses. Such manipulation can sway elections, influencing democracy itself. As we unveil the implications of dark psychology in the digital world, the question looms: how do we safeguard our minds in the age of information overload? Join me as we explore practical strategies to sift through the noise and reclaim our autonomy in a manipulated digital landscape. Could the antidote to dark psychology lie within us? As we dissect the tactics employed by manipulators, we inevitably arrive at an essential quality: empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It is a powerful tool that fosters connections and builds trust, creating a buffer against the nefarious tactics of manipulation. Yet, in an increasingly disconnected world, empathy is often overlooked or diminished. Studies show that individuals who regularly practice empathy are less likely to fall victim to manipulation. Why? Because they can recognize emotional cues and motives behind others' actions. The concept of emotional intelligence, which includes empathy, equips us with the tools to navigate complex social interactions skillfully. Let's dive deeper into a poignant example. Consider the workplace where bullying or manipulation can thrive. Employees who can empathize with their colleagues' feelings are more likely to foster a supportive environment, effectively disrupting cycles of manipulation. On a societal level, empathy encourages dialogue, understanding, and conflict resolution, mitigating the divisive tactics often employed by dark psychology. However, the practice of empathy must be intentional. Simple acts, listening actively, validating feelings, and showing genuine concern, can shift dynamics. In community settings, groups that emphasize empathy tend to thrive, showcasing resilience against manipulative influences. As we learn to harness the power of empathy, we also empower ourselves to identify and counteract dark psychological tactics. Moving forward, let's explore ways to cultivate empathy in our daily lives, allowing us to rise above manipulation and foster healthier relationships. Imagine walking into a room filled with people, where one person stands out effortlessly. They radiate charm, wit, and confidence. This person draws you in, and before you know it, you're captivated by their every word. Charisma can be an incredible asset, but in the wrong hands, it can become a tool for manipulation. Charismatic leaders are often seen in various spheres of influence, from politics to business to cults. They possess an ability to connect with people on a personal level, making them feel understood and valued. This magnetism can lead followers to blindly trust and obey them, sometimes to their own peril. Take the infamous Jim Jones, for example. In the 1970s, he founded the People's Temple and eventually led over 900 followers to their deaths in a mass suicide in Jonestown, Guyana. Jones was not just a manipulative figure, he was a skilled orator who took advantage of his followers' vulnerabilities. Many were searching for belonging or spiritual fulfillment, and he offered them a sense of community and purpose. However, as the years progressed, his charm morphed into oppressive control. Research shows that charismatic leaders can exert profound influence over their followers. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology revealed that individuals often perceive charismatic leaders as more capable and trustworthy, leading them to comply with requests even when they may not align with their own values or beliefs. This phenomenon highlights the dangerous potential of charisma when wielded by those with dark intentions. But how can we differentiate genuine charisma from manipulation? One key point lies in the intentions behind the charm. Authentic leaders inspire and uplift, while those who manipulate exploit emotional vulnerabilities for personal gain. Additionally, the concept of coercive persuasion plays a significant role in understanding this dynamic. Coercive persuasion occurs when an individual is subtly pressured to adopt a belief or take an action against their better judgment. This psychological tactic often relies on a charismatic leader's skillful manipulation of emotions, using techniques like isolation, repetition, and emotional appeals to ensure compliance. Consider the case of Elizabeth Holmes and the rise and fall of Theranos. Holmes was heralded as a visionary in the tech world, her poise and confidence captivating investors and employees alike. Yet, behind that charismatic exterior lay a deceptive business model built on false promises and manipulation. As more information emerged about the inaccuracies in Theranos blood tests, it became evident that her charisma had masked the darker underpinnings of the company's operations. The power of charisma can blind individuals to the warning signs of manipulation. Hence, it is crucial to cultivate awareness and critical thinking, especially when engaging with charismatic figures. The practice of questioning motives, seeking diverse perspectives, and maintaining a healthy skepticism can serve as powerful defense mechanisms against being ensnared by manipulation. To understand and combat this form of dark psychology, we must first recognize our emotional triggers. By acknowledging what draws us to charismatic figures, we can better guard against becoming victims of their persuasive tactics. In conclusion, while charisma can be a beautiful quality in leaders, it's essential to remain vigilant. By understanding the difference between genuine inspiration and manipulation, we can learn to appreciate the good while steering clear of the bad. After all, the line between admiration and manipulation can sometimes be dangerously thin. Imagine you're in a relationship where your reality is constantly questioned. You find yourself doubting your own memories, your feelings, and your perceptions. Welcome to the world of gaslighting, a dark psychological tactic that distorts reality and erodes a person's confidence and sense of self. Gaslighting is more than just a simple disagreement, it's a calculated psychological strategy employed primarily by manipulators to gain control over their victims. The term gaslighting originates from the 1938 play Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she is going insane by dimming the gas lights and denying it when she points it out. This manipulation technique has become more recognized in recent years, especially in the context of abusive relationships. The strategy works through several stages. Initially, the gaslighter will deny facts, dismiss feelings, or alter events to create doubt. This leads the victim to question their own sanity, and over time, the constant invalidation causes significant emotional distress. A report from the National Domestic Violence Hotline notes that gaslighting can have severe psychological effects, including anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. One high-profile example of gaslighting is the case of former President Donald Trump, who frequently used this tactic in public discourse, often cultivating confusion over blatant facts. His insistence that certain events did not happen or that statements were misrepresented led many supporters to doubt established truths. But gaslighting is not limited to political figures, it happens in personal relationships as well. Consider a friend who constantly tells you that you're being overly sensitive or misremembering events. This manipulation can create a cycle of dependency where the victim begins to rely on the manipulator for their reality, further entrenching the gaslighter's control. The emotional toll is staggering. Studies show that those who have experienced gaslighting can develop post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, impacting their ability to trust others or even themselves. So, how can we recognize gaslighting in our own lives? The first step is to pay attention to how certain interactions make us feel. If you often feel confused, anxious, or invalidated after conversations with someone, that may be a sign of gaslighting. Journaling your experiences can also serve as a tool for clarity, allowing you to track events and feelings over time. Additionally, seeking support from friends or professionals can provide an outside perspective, helping you to understand whether your experiences align with reality. Those who have been victims of gaslighting often report feeling isolated, thus, external validation is crucial. Conversations with trusted friends can reaffirm your experiences and fortify your sense of self. Once you recognize gaslighting, confrontational strategies should be employed cautiously. Approaching the gaslighter with assertiveness and clarity about your feelings can help dismantle their power dynamic. However, it's essential to prioritize your emotional safety. In many cases, leaving the relationship may be the healthiest choice. In conclusion, understanding gaslighting is critical in combating this dark tactic. Awareness of its signs and effects empowers individuals to protect themselves against manipulation. Remember, your reality is valid, and you deserve to be heard and believed. Picture this: you're in a close relationship, and yet you constantly feel obligated to meet demands that leave you feeling drained. This scenario may indicate emotional blackmail, a dark psychology tactic where manipulators exploit emotional ties to control others. Emotional blackmail thrives on fear, obligation, and guilt, creating a power imbalance that can erode self-esteem and mental health over time. The term was popularized by Dr. Susan Forward in her book Emotional Blackmail: How to Get the Results You Want from a Relationship. She described how manipulative behaviors can leave targets feeling trapped, unable to assert their needs for fear of causing conflict or losing the relationship altogether. Common tactics of emotional blackmailers include threats, manipulation of emotions, and shame. For instance, a partner might say, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me." This statement not only implies that love is conditional but also holds the recipient's emotions hostage, making them feel guilty for wanting to prioritize their own needs. One powerful case that exemplifies emotional blackmail emerged in the world of family dynamics. A mother who consistently pressured her child to choose between her happiness and the child's own desires used emotional blackmail to maintain control. The child felt unable to pursue independence, fearing that its pursuit would lead to the mother's emotional breakdown. Research indicates that emotional blackmail can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and depression in those targeted. A study published in the Journal of Family Therapy highlighted how these manipulative dynamics can create long-lasting psychological scars and hinder personal growth. For individuals caught in emotional blackmail, the path to liberation often involves recognizing their own worth and learning to establish boundaries. Recognizing emotional blackmail requires self-awareness and the ability to identify unhealthy patterns. Journaling feelings, discussing experiences with trusted friends, or even seeking therapy can provide clarity and emotional support. Once individuals recognize emotional blackmail, they can begin to reclaim their power. Setting clear boundaries and communicating assertively, without succumbing to guilt, is essential. For instance, a person might say, "I understand that this is important to you, but I need to take care of my own well-being first." This approach underscores personal agency and addresses the manipulator's behavior without escalating conflict. Emotional blackmail is a pervasive tactic found not just in personal relationships but also in workplaces and friendships. Understanding its mechanics provides insights into how manipulation can manifest across various contexts. The more we educate ourselves about these dark psychological tactics, the better equipped we become to protect ourselves and our loved ones. In conclusion, emotional blackmail can be incredibly damaging, but awareness and assertiveness can serve as powerful tools in breaking free. The journey towards liberation may start with recognizing your worth and embracing the strength to say no when necessary. Only then can you foster genuine, healthy relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Cognitive biases are systems of thinking that can distort our perception of reality, often leading us to make irrational decisions. They are rooted deep in human psychology and play a significant role in how dark psychology tactics can easily manipulate our behaviors. One of the most common cognitive biases is the confirmation bias, where we favor information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory data. This is particularly dangerous when it comes to emotional manipulation, as individuals seeking validation are often unable to see the bigger picture. In contrast, the availability heuristic is another bias that affects our decision-making. This occurs when we rely on immediate examples that come to mind when evaluating a specific topic. For example, a person who has recently experienced a cheating partner might become overly suspicious, interpreting harmless actions as deceit. A classic case of this happened with a couple whose relationship soured when the husband began to misinterpret his wife's innocent conversations with friends as flirtation. The husband's cognitive bias led him to project his own insecurities onto her, ultimately damaging their bond. Further complicating the issue is the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a cognitive bias wherein individuals with low ability at a task overestimate their skills, while those with high ability underestimate their competence. Manipulators often exploit this by presenting themselves as experts, creating a false sense of security in their victims. For instance, a notorious con artist might convince a vulnerable individual that they possess insider knowledge about investments, leading them to trust the con artist and lose their savings. The anchoring effect, another cognitive trap, occurs when individuals rely too heavily on the first piece of information they encounter when making decisions. For example, a buyer might see a luxury watch priced at $10,000 but later finds a similar watch marked down to $7,000. This discount may lead them to believe they are making a wise purchase, even if the actual market value is significantly lower. Manipulators often use this tactic to create false scarcity, suggesting that an opportunity is rare and urging quick decisions to capitalize on that perceived value. These cognitive biases create fertile ground for dark psychology to thrive. Awareness of these biases is crucial for empowerment because recognizing the ways our minds can deceive us helps us develop strategies to resist manipulation. This chapter emphasizes the need for critical self-examination and promotes techniques to mitigate cognitive biases, such as journaling, seeking feedback, and grounding our beliefs in facts rather than emotions. The goal is to cultivate a mindset that questions the narratives we hold, which empowers us against those who would exploit our vulnerabilities. As we learn to navigate our biases, a critical question remains: how do we ensure that our newfound awareness translates into real-world resilience? Social conditioning refers to the ways in which society shapes our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors through various forms of socialization. It's a powerful construct that plays a significant role in dark psychology. From childhood, we are taught what is acceptable behavior in our culture. But what happens when this conditioning becomes a tool for manipulation? Throughout history, there have been numerous examples of social conditioning leading to manipulation at collective levels. One significant case is the concept of obedience to authority, famously studied by psychologist Stanley Milgram in the 1960s. In his experiments, participants were instructed to administer electric shocks to a subject when they answered questions incorrectly. Surprisingly, a significant portion of participants continued to administer shocks despite the apparent distress of the subject, simply because an authority figure encouraged them to do so. This experiment highlights how social conditioning can override personal morality and encourage compliance with manipulative tactics. In social media, social conditioning manifests as a significant force shaping our views on body image, success, and relationships. Platforms often promote specific standards that lead individuals to compare themselves with curated highlights of others' lives. This social proof can distort self-esteem, driving individuals to seek validation through increasingly unhealthy behaviors. For instance, some may resort to extreme dieting or cosmetic procedures in pursuit of an ideal that is largely unattainable. Another profound example would be the phenomenon of cults, where leaders exploit social conditioning to gain control over followers. Cults often create a sense of belonging and community, fostering dependency on the group while isolating individuals from outside influences. A notorious example is the Jonestown Massacre, where Jim Jones manipulated his followers through social conditioning and emotional fulfillment, ultimately leading to tragedy. Understanding the role of social conditioning in dark psychology is crucial. Awareness allows individuals to recognize external influences attempting to manipulate their thoughts and behaviors. It provides tools to build resilience against such tactics, encouraging critical thinking and self-advocacy. In a world increasingly dominated by social media and collective ideologies, the question emerges: how can we cultivate a mindset that prioritizes our authenticity rather than our conditioned responses? Narcissism is often discussed in terms of self-centeredness, but it is a complex psychological disorder that can intersect alarmingly with dark psychology. At its core, narcissism is characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy. But what happens when narcissists leverage dark psychology tactics to manipulate others? A common tactic employed by narcissists is gaslighting, a form of emotional manipulation that makes victims question their reality and perceptions. For example, in a relationship, a narcissistic partner may deny certain events or conversations, leading the victim to doubt their memory or even their sanity. This strategy works because it creates dependency on the narcissist for validation and reassurance, entrenching the victim further into the web of manipulation. Narcissists are adept at exploiting the vulnerabilities of those around them. They often engage in love bombing at the start of relationships, showering their targets with affection and attention. Once the victim is emotionally invested, the narcissist gradually shifts to more controlling behaviors. A perfect illustration of this is the case of a woman named Sarah, who was swept off her feet by a charming man who turned controlling once she fell in love. What began as grand gestures morphed into subtle manipulations, leading Sarah to cut ties with friends and family, all while believing it was her choice. The cycle of narcissistic abuse often leaves emotional scars that can take years to heal. Victims may fear that they will never find anyone who loves them as wholeheartedly, perpetuating a cycle of dependence. A staggering statistic shows that nearly 50% of people in abusive relationships experience emotional trauma that drastically impacts their mental health even long after the relationship ends. In the wake of such experiences, breaking free from the grasp of a narcissist requires immense courage and resilience. It involves recognizing the patterns of manipulation and establishing firm boundaries. Healing often necessitates the support of therapy and close friends, helping individuals rebuild their self-worth. As we ponder the complexities of narcissism, a lingering question remains: how can we better equip ourselves to recognize narcissistic traits before they ensnare us? Charisma is a powerful force. It can inspire us, draw us in, and motivate action. But what happens when charisma turns into manipulation? Charismatic leaders have shaped societies, influenced millions, and instigated radical changes. Yet, it's crucial to understand that the same charisma can be wielded as a weapon in the hands of those with dark intentions. Take a moment to consider the infamous cult leader Jim Jones. In the late 1970s, he led over 900 followers to their deaths in a mass suicide in Guyana, calling it a revolutionary suicide. Jones was undeniably charismatic, charming people into believing in his vision. His ability to manipulate emotions was so profound that he could sway large groups of individuals to follow him blindly, even to their demise. This chapter explores how charisma can become a double-edged sword. What qualities make charismatic people so charming? Often, they exhibit confidence, strong communication skills, and emotional intelligence. They know how to read the room and make others feel valued. However, behind the mask of charm, there might lie self-serving motives. According to psychologist Robert Cialdini, the concept of social proof plays a critical role in this manipulation. When individuals see others following a charismatic leader, they often feel compelled to join in, ignoring any red flags. The tactics used by these leaders include love bombing, where they shower followers with affection and attention, creating an emotional dependence. Another common technique is us versus them rhetoric, which fosters loyalty by creating an enemy out of those who challenge their authority. For instance, consider how various political figures have utilized this style to manipulate masses, energizing their base while vilifying opposition. Moreover, the emotional turmoil caused by charismatic manipulation can be profound. Victims often feel isolated after leaving such groups, struggling with guilt, shame, and confusion. The story of the Heaven's Gate cult further exemplifies this. They believed their leader, Marshall Applewhite, would guide them to salvation in a spaceship. Many followers lost their lives in an attempt to reach the next level, showcasing the tragic outcomes of manipulating charisma. As we delve deeper, we will also explore how the digital age has amplified the reach of charismatic manipulators. Social media platforms serve as modern-day stages where these individuals can cultivate their image, spread their messages, and ensnare vulnerable followers. For example, influencers often present curated personas, combining elements of charisma with aspirational living, risking manipulation of their followers' emotions and beliefs in pursuit of profit. In conclusion, while charisma can uplift and inspire, it can also deceive and destroy. Understanding the dual nature of charismatic leaders is essential in safeguarding ourselves against manipulation. As we move into our next chapter, we will navigate the intricacies of gaslighting and its psychological effects. What drives individuals to distort reality in such a damaging way? Discover the unsettling truth next. Gaslighting, a term that has entered popular usage recently, but its origins trace back to the 1938 play Gaslight. In this story, a husband manipulates his wife into doubting her own sanity, gradually altering her perception of reality. The term has evolved into a widespread concept in psychology, describing a tactic used to gain power over someone by making them question their own memories and perceptions. Gaslighting is not just a term, it's a profound psychological manipulation technique that can have devastating consequences on mental health. Victims often experience confusion, anxiety, and a deep sense of self-doubt. Imagine a scenario where a person repeatedly tells their partner that they are too sensitive or recalls events differently than how they happened. Over time, this can lead the victim to question their judgment and reality. In exploring gaslighting, we find that it often occurs in various contexts: intimate relationships, workplaces, and even in the media. A study published in the Journal of Applied Psychology shows that gaslighting can significantly impact an individual's mental well-being, leading to depression and anxiety disorders. A poignant example can be seen in the relationship dynamics of celebrities like Britney Spears, who faced public scrutiny and repeated undermining of her autonomy. Gaslighting techniques include denying facts, trivializing the victim's feelings, and manipulating the environment. For instance, a partner may hide keys and then accuse the victim of losing them, planting seeds of doubt and confusion. According to therapist Dr. Robin Stern, the goal of gaslighting is control, often stemming from an insecure need for power. This desire is particularly evident in toxic relationships, where one partner seeks to dominate the other emotionally and psychologically. But this manipulation does not only occur in personal relationships. In workplaces, managers may employ gaslighting to discredit employees, leading to a culture of fear and mistrust. Witness the notorious case of the workplace harassment scandal involving the late Roger Ailes at Fox News,